All right, everybody. Welcome to the April edition of the Do Tell Story Swap in Santa Rosa. It's nice to see familiar faces and new faces. Um, Quick reminder, these stories are told, not read, and they are generally we started at 5 to 7 minutes, but it's gotten to the point where anything under 10 minutes is okay. And if you need a little bit of extra time, you can check in with Katie Mangan or Meg Brown, either of our two chairs in advance and get permission for extra time. So tonight, the men's bathroom is out of order. So the men are going to have to just go outside. Nashama, there's always a bathroom joke.
Okay. So I have to tell you when I checked in with Vicky, because as a library person, I didn't read the thing that she sent me. I said, how much time do we have? And she said, well, maybe up to 10 minutes. I said, phew. So I haven't checked in advance, and my story is going to come in at around 10-ish.
That's
So
fine.
I hope that's
That
okay.
fits.
Okay.
And speaking of Nashama, it's nice to have you here at the swap. This is your first time, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, right?
Yes, Vicky lured me. I saw her recently and I took a workshop with her and I had so much fun and she teased the chance, the possibility of another workshop. And so this just galloped into being. And I work every other Tuesday, so no guarantee that my Tuesday will connect with your Tuesday. But here I am, and that's the important thing.
Well, that's wonderful. And you are very welcome here, and we're lucky to have you. So I have already pulled you up to our virtual stage.
I
And
see
so Nashama Franklin, or is it Franken?
Franklin. Franklin.
Franklin, that's right. Take it away.
All right. What you should know about Baba Yaga. She's terrifying. She's very skinny, but she has a huge appetite, especially for children. She loves to eat children. Where does she live? In a hut on chicken legs, surrounded by a fence made of bones. You can imagine where the bones came from, with skulls on top of the bones. How does she get around on those very fast, long, skinny legs? Or she likes to fly in her mortar with her pestle as a paddle. Now, you do not want to visit Baba Yaga, but sometimes you can't help it. And this was the case with a young woman named Vasilisa, who had the misfortune to live with her stepmother, who was very mean, and her stepsisters, those daughters of that stepmother. They was lazy, they were indolent. And when Vasilisa's father died, then the stepmother could put her to work. She knew she was a very good worker. She did everything around the house, and the rest just kind of lazed around and teased her and carped. But she had a really lovely quality inside. She was kind, she was compassionate no matter what. Where did she get these things? From her mother, who had died. And before her mother died, she gave her, Vasilisa, a doll she had made. And it was a very ordinary looking doll, so the stepsisters weren't interested in it. They didn't realize the doll was alive. And her mother said, if you need help, the doll will give it to you. Well, here was the situation in this benighted household. The girls were coming of marriageable age, and Vasilisa was very beautiful, and the stepsisters were not so beautiful. So she had to get rid of the competition. And this is what she came up with. They were sewing. It was nighttime. By the light of a single candle, Vasilisa had a huge mound of mending because the girls were very careless with their clothes, and the others were just picking out late delicately. And the candle went out, and they were plunged into darkness. And they tried to light other candles, and it didn't work. Why? Because that stepmother, she was a witch herself, and she had put a spell of darkness on them. Uh, it was a little too powerful, as you will discover. But in any case, she said to Vasilisa, we don't seem to have a light. You're going to have to go into the forest, find Baba Yaga, and borrow a light from her. And Vasilisa, she knew about Baba Yaga. And she said to the doll, this is just too scary. I mean, I may never return. And the doll said, don't worry, I'm here. Be brave. And you know, the morning is wiser than the evening. The Russians say this all the time, and for the most of the time, it's true. But they had to leave at midnight, and luckily there was a full moon that lighted the path through the forest. And at a certain point, a red horse with a rider clad in red galloped by, and it was dawn. And then a white horse with a rider clad in white galloped by, and it was day. And there it was, the hut on Chicken Leg. She had arrived. And then a black horse with a rider clad in black rode by, and it turned dark immediately. And the skulls on that bone fence, remember that fence, lit up. And of course, Vasilina just wanted to hide. I mean, nobody seemed to be home, but there was this kind of rustling overhead. And then Baba Yaga landed in her mortar with a pestle in one hand and a broom in the other. And she said, I see you there. You better come out. And Vasilisa came out. And she said, I am Vasilisa, and my stepmother asked if you would lend us a light. And Baba Yaga said, yeah, I know about your stepmother, and I know about those stepsisters. You could have asked for better relatives. She said, well, you may get a light if you live long enough, but in the meanwhile, you'll have to work for me. And so she opened the gate and you should know that the lock was a mouth with sharp teeth in it, and the latch was a finger bone. But she said, open, and the gate opened, and they went through, and the gate shut behind them. And they had to climb this ladder. The chicken legs were very long to get into the hut of Baba Yaga. And once they were inside, Baba Yaga said, I'm really hungry. In the oven is lots of food. Bring it out. The oven wasn't that big, but the food just came out and out and out. And Baba Yaga kind of inhaled it. For a skinny woman, how could she hold all that stuff? But she got enough to eat. And then she said, in the morning, I'll be gone, but I have some jobs for you. She said, outside you'll find a pile of wheat, with the chaff inside. That's no good. Separate the wheat from the chaff. And the yard needs sweeping, and the hut needs cleaning, and the linen needs scrubbing. Just look around, you can see the mess. And I'll need to be fed. And if the meal doesn't satisfy me, you'll be dessert. Baba Yaga went to sleep. Very loud snoring, and Vasilisa could not sleep well, as you can imagine. And sure enough, the horseman came by, the red horse, Dawn, that lighted up, and the white horse, Sun, and Baba Yaga, she took off in that mortar. And Vasilisa looked around. I mean, she was a hard worker, but still, this was just too much. And the doll said, didn't I tell you morning is wiser than the evening? You know who did all the chores? The doll. The doll did them, and all Vasilisa had to do was make supper. She was a very good cook. So when Baba Yaga came home after this, the horsemen did their thing, she looked around. She was baffled. She was pleased. She said, looks pretty good to me. And Vasilisa said, you better eat because the food will get cold. And there was this sumptuous feast laid out, and Baba Yaga hoovered it down. She said, well, that was good. She said, tomorrow you'll have perhaps more challenging things to do. She said, look at the hut. Look at all these windows. Look how filthy they are. And out there, there's that pile. It looks like dirt. In the dirt are poppy seeds. I don't like dirty poppy seeds. Sort them out. And somewhere in that haystack is my precious needle. And there was one more thing. I kind of forgot what it is. But in any case, it was challenging. And of course, food. And sure enough, Baba Yaga took off. The doll went to work. And when Baba Yaga got home, oh, the meal smelled so good. The precious needle was gleaming. There was a heap of poppy seeds and a great pile of dirt. And she was pleased. She said, "Okay, you've kind of done it. And now you're very quiet, and you're obviously a good housekeeper and a very good cook, but now you have a chance to ask me a question. It better be a good one, or else." And Baba Yaga thought. She said, "Well, tell me about those horses and their riders, and who are they?" "Ah," said Baba Yaga, "that was a good question. If you had asked me about what happens in this hut, oh, I don't like people poking their noses into my private business. The red horse is my dawn, and the white horse is my day, and the black horse is my night. And now I'm going to ask you a question, and I hope the answer is appropriate." Or she said, "How did you get all this work done? How can you do this?" And Vasilisa felt the doll in her pocket and said, "From the love of my mother." Now, Baba Yaga was not comfortable with the word love, but she knew what was going on. She said, "Okay, okay, take a skull with the blazing eyes. That's what you came for, right?" And sure enough, she plucked a skull off the bone fence and gave it to Vasilisa. And when it was night, when that horse rode by, the eyes in the skull blazed, lighting her path. And during the day, we know about the horses. It was a longer journey than just getting there. And when Baba Yaga got back to where she lived with her unfortunate family, it was dark. She said, "Maybe they're asleep." She put down the skull. The skull said, "Take me with you." She wants, Baba Yaga, she wants you to give it directly to your stepmother. She was the one who asked for it. So Baba Yaga picked up the skull, walked into the room, and there the three of them were sitting, kind of frozen at their lace making. That spell worked all too well. But when the stepmother saw that skull, she lighted up. She seized it. And you know what happened? Those flames out of the eyes engulfed her in flame, and she was reduced to ash. And the blazing eyes turned to the stepsisters, and sure enough, they were ash as well. And now Vasilisa had to leave that horrid house. Even though they were gone, it was a place of bad memories. And many good things happened to her, including, you should know, she married the Tsar. But periodically, she and the doll, who's still alive, they talk together. They talk about their time with Baba Yaga, unforgettable. They wonder what she's up to, and so do I. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Nishama. Nishama, I've mostly heard you tell true personal stories at the Moth. That's where you and I ran into each other quite a bit. So it was a real treat for me to hear you tell a folk tale. That was really wonderful. Do you
As far as
tell?
I'm concerned, they're both real. I mean, they have legs. I love them, and I love to tell folk tales. And there aren't that many places I can tell them these days. So when I come, I'll probably load more upon you.
Yes, well, this is the place to tell them. You have lots of folktale lovers here. Do you tell a lot of Baba Yaga stories, or
Well,
is
she came to me again because I went to the Women's Storytelling Festival, which was fabulous, on Zoom, and a beautiful teller told Baba Yaga in the first person. So I said, "Baba Yaga, I know that witch." And not only is she close to me, but one of my grandchildren, who is an artist, made me a Baba Yaga hut on chicken legs out of paper mache to hang in my window, and got a tattoo of Baba Yaga in her hut on her leg. So that's how wedded I am to this character.
Wow, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's see, was that somebody was asking about a Halloween story? This, with the flaming skulls and the fence and the mouse tooth lock, there were a lot of really creepy Halloween elements to this one. So that was nice. Thank you very much, Nashama, and we hope you come every month.
When I can.
Yes. All right. Well, we're off to a great start. And our fan favorite teller, certainly my one of my favorites, is up next. Please welcome Sharon Elwell. And Sharon, you must be coming from Washington these days, right?
I am still in Washington, still cloudy, still we didn't even notice the eclipse here. It's all the same to us. Well, this is a personal story. I was not looking forward, I was expecting a day of agonizing and unbearable monotony. I was going on a Greyhound bus across Nevada. Now, if you've ever crossed Nevada on the ground, you know that there is nothing there but 400 miles of stage, nothing else. And the distant blue mountains right in front of you, and you can ride toward them for hours and hours, and they never get any closer. And it is a harsh experience. And I was feeling sorry for myself. And I thought, can this get any worse? When an old man with a white beard and a floppy hat sat down next to me. And I thought, well, I guess it can. And he started talking, not the ordinary, how are you? Where do you come from? Where are you going? Kind of chatting. He acted as though we had known one another forever and our conversation had been interrupted. And he said, we are going now into the realm of death. And I said, well, I feel bad about it, but I don't feel bad. And he said, it's the 40-mile desert. And I said, Nevada is 400 miles. He said, well, it's not all of Nevada. It's the 40 miles before you get to the California border. This is the deadliest place in the North America, possibly the deadliest place in the world. Why? Well, there is no water. And the pioneers who were on their way to California had their goods loaded in covered wagons pulled by oxen teams. An ox requires 30 gallons of water a day and can only cover 10 miles in a day. So to go 4 days without water is a death sentence. And travelers in the 1880s and 1890s said that this land out here beside us to the south was littered with bones, that you couldn't walk without going over bones. And there have been 900 human skeletons excavated from this little area. Oh, all right. Well, I'm just getting over my chills from hearing about that when he said, but look out the other way. Keep your eyes open because we're going to go by a pole. I said, a pole? Yep, there's nothing there. There's nothing around it. There's no building. It's not painted. There's no way to signify it. So you have to keep your eyes peeled because a pole is coming up. So I watch, and sure enough, in a mile or two, we go by a pole, and there's nothing the least bit unusual about the pole. And I said, what is that? And he said, that is the last piece of the last Pony Express station. And I said, what? Shouldn't there be a sign or a plaque or a museum or something? And he said, no, Nevada has 47 Pony Express stations because those boys, and they were boys, they were just young men because they were light and foolhardy. And who was that? Wild Bill Hickok. rode the Pony Express, and he was only 14 years old at the time. But they rode those horses hell for leather, and a horse can only sustain that speed for less than 20 miles. So those stations had to be every 20 miles. And then they jumped off that horse and onto the next one and continued as fast as they could go. And of course, that whole enterprise only lasted 18 months and then it was over. 18 months. What happened? The telegraph is what happened. On the day that the telegraph made the final connection, the Pony Express was dead. And it was 1861. The first message on that telegraph was Abraham Lincoln has been elected president of the United States. Wow. And he said, as he sat up and got interested again, if you looked at, well, you can't see it, but if you go down that road about 50 miles, you'll come to Molosia. Is that a town? Oh, it is an independent republic. Molosia is a micronation right in the middle of Nevada. And they have their own money, they have their own flag, they have a national anthem, and tourists come there by the dozen to get their passports stamped that they have been to Molosia. And don't they get in trouble with the government? They do not. They pay their taxes. They call it foreign aid, but they do pay their taxes and they do all that the government requires of them, and they keep their own country. There's several of them, dozens of them around the world, and they have a microcon convention of all the tiny micro countries. This particular one is an acre wide and it has 5 inhabitants. And you can go there for yourself and visit that someday. Well, we went on that way. I learned about the pupfish because a car went by that had a kill the pupfish bumper sticker on it. Now, why would somebody want to kill a fish? And he said, well, if you look, you'll also see signs that say, save the pupfish. The conservationists versus the agriculturalists, because everything in Nevada is about water. A pupfish is an inch long and bright blue, and it lives deep in a cave in the Devil's Hole. But if the water gets too low, we could lose that pupfish and it could go extinct. And the whole thing was finally determined by the Supreme Court, who ruled in favor of the little fish, which still survived. It wasn't long before he was talking about mustangs and all the wild burros that live out there. And if you watch, sometimes they come close to the highway. And and the Singing Sand Mountain. I didn't know any of that. And I was so fascinated that when we got through the salt flats and showed up in Salt Lake City, I was actually kind of disappointed. By the time I got my luggage and figured out my connection, the old man was gone, and I never saw him again. I learned so many things that day, but the most important thing I learned was the difference between boredom and fascination is a storyteller.
Oh, Erin,
Mhm.
Sharon, thank you so much. Um, I think, was that Highway 50 the loneliest
Yes,
road in the world?
yes, and I
Yeah,
should have said that it calls itself the loneliest road in the world.
yeah, there's signs that say that. Oh my gosh. I can't bel I wonder how many times that man rode that stretch of road because he knew the pole was coming up
Yeah,
and he seemed so familiar with it.
he
Um,
was a miner, and they have copper mining and nickel mining there, and that was his, he had actually lived there, and so he knew a lot.
that's great. Um, you never know who you're gonna meet on a Greyhound bus.
That's for sure.
I think every time you get on one, there's a story. And that line between boredom and fascination, you put it so well, is a story. That could, I mean, that's a great quote. Thank you so much, Sharon. All right, and so we are up to our third storyteller, and um, this storyteller is coming all the way from tomorrow at 7 in the morning, or now it's probably 8 in the morning. So please welcome to the virtual stage, Renu.
Hello everyone, good evening. Sa re ga ma ga da ni sa. You must be wondering whether I've come to tell a story or sing a song. It's a story about a musician. 8-year-old Kalyan loved to sing. He thought he was a wonderful musician. But there was one small problem. Nobody liked to listen. One afternoon, he ran to his father and said, Appa, I have a song for you. Sarega. Stop, Kalyan. Can't you see I'm working? Go somewhere else. So Kalyan went to see his mother. Mother was in the bedroom resting. Amma, I have a story for you. I have a song for you. Sa ba da. Kalyan, stop. Can't you see? I'm resting. Go somewhere else. Where do I go? I'll go outside. So Kalyan went outside. Saregama. Stop! Somebody shouted. It was his neighbor. My children are sleeping. Go somewhere else. Okay. Let's go now. Remember his friends are playing in the nearby field. I'll go and sing for them. So he went all the way to the nearby field. And when he reached there, he saw his friends are playing. Wait. I have a song for you. Sare. Stop. You'll get a punch that will make you unconscious, said one of the boys. Okay, cool down. He wasn't bothered by criticism. He thought he was a wonderful singer. So he thought, where can I go next? So he continued to walk. He walked till he came to the temple. And the temple was deserted. Nobody around. This is the place for me, thought Kalyan. But he went to the front gate, it was locked. So he went around to the back. The rear gate was not locked. So he silently opened the latch, went to the front, stood in front of the deity. The deity was covered by a curtain. He didn't mind. He started to sing. And he sang to his heart's content. After he had finished, he left as silently as he had come. The next morning, the pujari arrived, the priest. He opened the front gate, went into the temple, and pulled aside the curtain. Deva, what has happened? Oh my God, what has happened? What has happened? The deity, instead of standing like this in his usual posture, had his hands like this. Oh no, what do I do now? He started chanting all the mantras he knew. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tatulyam Nama Nama Varanane. The deity still had his hands on his ear. He chanted the age-old mantras starting from the beginning of time. But the deity did not change posture. What do I do? The king is coming today to offer his prayers. Ayyo, Deva, what do I do? Oh God, please, bring your hands down. Nothing happened. Soon he heard the chariot arrive. Ayyo, Deva, what do I do? He went out quickly to greet the king. Maharaj, Maharaj, come, please come. But Maharaj, today is an auspicious occasion. You must close your eyes and enter the temple. Remember, don't open your eyes. Stand in front of the God and pray. Today is an auspicious day. All your prayers will be answered. The king was very happy. All my prayers will be answered. Okay, I shall close my eyes. So, closing his eyes, the king started to walk towards the deity. The king was walking, the priest was walking behind. Tuck, 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 tuck. His heart was jumping with fear. The king was walking, priest was following. Tuck, 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 tuck. King was walking, priest was following. Tuck, 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 tuck. The king stood in front of the deity. Just then, mosquito came and sat on the king's cheek. Tap! The king hit the mosquito and opened his eyes. He saw the deity. Oh no, oh no! I opened my eyes and the deity has put his hands over his ears. What do I do? What do I do? Oh, Pujari, priest, tell me what to do, what to do. I don't know, Maharaj. I don't know what to do. So what does the king do? What do all kings do? Of course, the king sent out a royal proclamation. Anyone who can bring the deity's hands back to the normal position of the blessing will get whatever his heart desires. Everyone heard this. Pujaris came. People came and went. People came and went. But nothing changed. The deity's hands were still on his ears. Sages, Mahamunis, they came, Sham, Jum, Brashta, Shashta, all that they did, but hands remained on the ears. What to do now? Kalyan came to hear about this. I can do something, especially since the king is offering an award. So ran to the temple. We saw him. Hello, stop. Nobody could do anything. You are come here, little chick of a boy. Don't even enter the temple. Maharaj, Maharaj, please, please, please. I can do something. I can do something. Please, Maharaj. Okay, you might try. But Maharaj, I have one small condition. What is it? I want everybody to go out of the temple. Please, please, Maharaj. Everyone went out of the temple. And Kalyan stood in front of the deity. Remove your hands from your ears. Now, I'm begging you, remove your hands. Go back to your original posture. I am going to sing now. He opened his mouth. Immediately the deity. Ha ha ha. You're back to normal. He went outside. Come in, come in, come in, everyone. All of them went back in. The king first, priest followed. What has happened? Magic. Kalyan, you have done something that nobody else could do. What did you do? That I cannot tell you, Maharaj. That I cannot tell you. What is my award? You said anything my heart desires. Maharaj, I'm a musician. I want to sing. Can you please ask your royal musicians to teach me? Of course, I will appoint my best musicians to teach you. And that's how Kalyan's musical journey started. And that's the end of my story. Thank
Oh, Renu, that was another wonderful story. Thank you so much. I was
you. Heard
wondering
the
how
story?
the boy would fit in at the end. That was terrific. It's a good thing he wasn't a dancer.
I wonder what posture the date you have taken
I,
then.
I don't know,
Anyway,
but
I
that
got the story from another storyteller called Dejani Baduri, who's a storyteller from Chennai. I asked her permission. She said, please go ahead and share the stories. So we'll come into travel. Thank you for listening.
oh, that was wonderful. We've had a lot of nice comments in the chat. So you're definitely
Thank
going
you.
to want to go back and look. Lots of compliments to Nishama and Sharon already, and now they're flowing in, complimenting
Thank
you on your
you.
story, Renu,
Everybody.
as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next up, we have a very short little vignette by Vina. Is there any connection between Vina and vignette? Those, there's
Maybe,
got,
maybe. Um, so this is this a little embarrassing to be telling you this story in the company of all of you illustrious storytellers. This is off the cuff, but it's timely. So my mother lived in Petaluma when she was a child. And so she walked to school. That was back in the day when kids could walk to school. You know, from wherever their house was, they could walk the 10 blocks or however far it was to the school. And she went to, I think, Philip Swede Elementary, which is no longer there in Petaluma. But she's walking along by herself on the sidewalk, and she notices an very odd thing going on at her feet. And what she observes is that she's walking under trees, and what she sees is all these little shapes in the shadows under the tree. And the only thing she can think of is each of those little shapes, identical, hundreds of them, is they look like the shape of a moon, you know, with a quarter moon, for example. So she's mystified by how this could be, what's going on, that the shadows that are always the same are a whole different shape than she's used to. So, of course, she was grown up before she learned that the round shapes that we're accustomed to seeing in the shadows from a tree that's pretty high up, they're round because each is an image of the sun. And that's why they're round. And that's what we're all used to when we walk under a high foliage filled tree. And so she finally realized that what was going on that one day was that there was an eclipse of the sun going on. And so every little lit spot on the sidewalk at her feet was an image of the partially obscured sun because of the eclipse that she didn't even know was happening at that time. So I love that story because it's such a wonderful way to understand what those little pockets of light are when we walk under a tree, you know, under the sun. They're always round because the sun is always round unless there's an eclipse going on. That's it.
that is such a timely story too. Of course, we had our eclipse yesterday. Did you go out and see if you could notice that, Vina?
You know, I didn't, Brandon,
Oh,
which is silly because I think we even had good weather here.
yeah.
I just spaced it out.
I
And
wish
here we would have seen a little corner out of the sun, I think, right?
that's true. We didn't get a very complete,
Major.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I had those glasses on because
Mm.
I was at school and we got a really good image of the it was just kind of going along the bottom of the sun. It poked up and went down, but
Mm.
it
Mm.
was pretty neat. It was really wonderful. And that was a really great description. Another way to appreciate how the sun is affected. That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Shri, what do you think? Are you ready to tell your story? Let's see where there he's oh, and Shri has her camera on. She looks ready.
Can I can I please go off to Wiki?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we'll do
I'm just
Vic.
switching from my mobile to the laptop. It'll be
Okay,
comfortable to tell the story. So I'll just like to go off to Wiki, please.
will do, Shri. Thank you. So we'll see you in a bit. And that means it's time for Vicky. Vicky time.
Okay, let me get rid of, unmute myself. There we are. Well, hello. I'm going to tell an Eastery story, which I don't normally do, but I wanted to, so. Elspeth's slid out of bed in the pre-dawn darkness of an Easter morning. She felt around for her slippers and got her raggedy bathrobe and tied it around her. Oh, what a very little kid. She was only about 6. She shuffled out the door and slip-slopped down the hall through the dark, damp, empty living room into the kitchen, and then she flicked on the lights. She made herself a bowl of cereal. And she put the little banana logs around the edge and one right in the middle. She was pretty good at making her own breakfast because, see, Mama worked 5 days a week, and then she worked 4 nights a week at a restaurant. And so breakfast was pretty much up to Elspeth herself. And she was pretty good at it. So she finished her cereal and she washed up her dish. And then, it being Sunday, it was Easter after all, she knew to wash up Mama's sticky, sweet whiskey glass that she had left and empty out the ashtray. Because on Friday and Saturday nights, Mama sometimes came home and needed a cigarette and maybe a drink or two. And so when Elspeth was certain that the kitchen was spotless, she went out the back door, the kitchen back door, and slish, 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 through the dew-soaked grass. It was freezing cold, and it soaked up her robe and made her slippers squeak in water. Out into the darkness she went until she was facing the far eastern coast, far eastern horizon, looking out over the hills at a very thin scarlet line that was just outlining the mountains. Shivering and waiting in the dark, and as she knew that her friends would probably wake up to warm and sunlit living rooms and Easter baskets and things hidden behind chairs, and then everybody would get together, the whole family would get together for breakfast and have hotcakes and real maple syrup, and everybody'd be laughing and talking, and then they'd put on their best clothes and they'd go off to church together. That's what everybody'd be doing. Well, the only way Elsbeth got to church was when Grandma showed up every Sunday, picked her up, and they'd go out to Sunday school, and then they'd go out to church, and then they'd go out to Denny's for a short stack of hotcakes and real maple syrup. And Elspeth would sit in the booth with her grandma and listen to all the noise around her. And she told herself that this was just all her family. See, all the family was here and everybody was laughing and talking at the same time. She pretended she knew everybody there and they knew her. On Easter, Grandma would show up and tell her the same thing. You know, the Easter bunny couldn't quite find you and your mama. We never know where you and your mama are going to land. So the Easter bunny left a basket for you in the back seat. And Elspeth would look back, and there it would be, a store-bought basket, all wrapped up in crinkly, shiny, beautiful colored cellophane with a big bow, and there'd be a bunny in it. And they'd go off to church, and then they'd go out to breakfast afterward. That was Easter. But this Easter, Grandma was real sick, and she didn't expect to see her grandma. So there wouldn't be any Easter basket, and there wouldn't be any grandma. There wouldn't even be a Denny's breakfast. So, left standing in the dark, staring at the very, very neon orange outline of the hills, she picked a spot in the sky and waited for the resurrected Jesus to show up. She stared at the spot. It would be right about there. And then she started wondering what he'd wear. I mean, what do you wear to a resurrection? Well, all the pictures in the Bible, you see, he was in white with blue. And once when he was chasing the money changers out of the temple, he had a red sash on, but she was pretty sure you're not allowed to wear red in heaven. So maybe he'd just be in all white. And what's up with the sandals? If you wear shoes all your life, why would you wear sandals in heaven? Why would you wear shoes? So her Jesus was barefoot. And while she was dressing and undressing her paper doll, Jesus, staring into the darkness there, she was so intent that she didn't hear coming behind her, shoo-whoosh, 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 shoo-whoosh. It was Mama coming up, standing beside her and saying, "Hey, Pumpkin, what are you doing up here?" "Oh, Mama," she said, I'm waiting." And she pointed to the sky. And Mama said, no, if you're waiting for the Easter bunny, he's already come. With a shriek, Elspeth ran back to the house, leaving Mamma alone, cradling her steaming coffee mug, staring at the horizon. By now, it had started to light up and soak up, drenching the hem of night, and a bower of birdsong rose overhead, and the chill made her shiver. And there was not another sound other than the birds. There were no sounds on the highway where they lived, and not even the rooster, just birds like lacework over her head. Mama, come see what the bunny got me. Okay, hon, I'll be right there, she said. But she didn't move. She stood right there and focused on the horizon, watching to make sure that damn sun really did come up, and praying to the universe somewhere that maybe the universe could grant her personally just one more resurrection.
Wow. That really took a turn for me and became such a reflective, introspective story.
Mhm.
That was wonderful, Vicky.
Thank you.
And it had such a really nice combination of different tones in it, too.
Thank you. I don't normally tell that kind of story, but I wanted to.
Yeah, it was good. It was
Thank you.
really good, powerful.
Thank you.
And I didn't hear any Easter stories, so that made Easter for me.
Good.
My Easter was kind of dampened by hams and my brother.
Not ham.
Yes. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right. I think we have time for another teller before we do our break in the middle, which is when we introduce ourselves and there's a little prompt. But Sri, I'm looking for you.
I'm
And
here.
there you are. Yes, wonderful. So please welcome to the Do Tell virtual stage, Sri Karuna.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope my voice is clear. Great. Thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you, Renu, for introducing me to this wonderful people all out here. Good evening, everyone, though it's good morning in India. And listening to the first story of Baba Yaga, I remember a story where the protagonist is a Baba. In India, holy and saint people, they are called as Babas. And this story is a fictional story written by a very famous author of our national language, Hindi, way back in the starting of 1900s. A very old story, which I translated into English to bring it to you all. Baba Bharti was a very saint holy man. He spent most of his time in singing the praises of the Lord. He stayed near a temple and he had very few wishes. He just ate whatever people gave him or whatever was made for the temple deity. And he spent most of his time just in spiritual offerings to the people, telling them what is good, what is nice, how to live, and all. And everybody loved him. But he had one love. And that only one love was his horse. And what a horse it was! It was so majestic, it was so robust, it was having silver mane, and people loved. And Baba named him Sultan. Sultan means king of kings. And every evening, unless he took 4 or 5 miles of galloping on that majestic Sultan, Baba Bharti could not rest. And because Baba Bharti, before giving up all his riches, all his well-lived life, he just brought this one Sultan for the love of this animal, and Sultan also loved him equally. And Baba Bharti spent some time in glaving his coat, feeding him grains with his own hands, and he took good care of him. And in the nearby villages, the fame of Sultan just spread from one person to other person, one person to other person. When Baba Bharti took his evening gallop, everybody would stand and just gaze at that sight. Oh, what a beautiful horse. Oh my God, it must be a divine horse. Oh my God. And soon, this news of this majestic, this beautiful horse reached the ears of Khadak Singh. And who was Khadak Singh? Khadak Singh was the dacoit of that area. Even if babies did not sleep or toddlers were making some noise, people would say, Khadak Singh will come and take you away, and they would be shivering. Oh my God, people really feared Khadak Singh. And the news about this horse, when it reached Khadak Singh's ears, Khadak Singh was getting restless. I should go and look at this horse. So many people are talking about. And one hot afternoon, when Baba Bhati was resting near the temple, he had a nice place for Sultan, where Sultan could rest in the shade. He had a leafy, this one, and Sultan was also resting in that shade, and Baba Bhati was resting in the temple. Then Khadak Singh came. And Baba Bharti, looking at him, could know that he did not belong to this villages. What is your name? Baba Bharti asked. Khadak Singh, he gave the reply. Then Baba Bharti understood this is that famous dacoit whom all the people fear. Tell me, Khadak Singh, what brings you here? I heard about your horse and I came to have a look at it. Oh, yeah, really? My horse, my Sultan, it's the best horse. Oh my God, it's such a special being. If you see it, if you just lay your eyes on it, you will really fall in love with it. Can I have a look at it? Yes, see, come, come, I'll take you. And as soon as Sultan heard Baba's steps, it stood up. Khadak Singh was gaping at it. Oh my God, I've never seen a horse like this. How come this frail, thinny mini, this Baba, what will he do with it? This kind of horse should belong to me. These thoughts were going on in Khadak Singh's mind. And Baba, without reading, Khadak Singh thoughts was going on and on. You know, my Sultan, he speeds like the wind. Zip, zap, zoom, you can vroom, and miles he'll just cross by. And then he looked at Khadak Singh. What happened? No, 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 no. Your horse is very good. Uh, now I am satisfied after looking at your horse. Oh, please come back again. And whenever you want to have a look at it, you can. I will come back again, but this horse will not stay long with you. I am going to take it with me, said Khadak Singh. Because Khadak Singh believed that he had the strength and he had people with him, and whatever he lay his eyes upon, that thing or could he took can take it by force or however he can just obtain it. And as soon as Khadak Singh left, Baba Bharti was scared. He didn't know what to do. He can't imagine his life without his beloved Sultan. He loved Sultan more than his son. And day and night he stopped eating. His eating became little, and in night he stopped sleeping. He was going every now and then, watching if Sultan was there or not, and coming back. And this way, days, weeks, and months passed by. After 4, 5 months, he thought that incident must have been my delusion. Ah, Khadak Singh will not come. My Sultan is safe with me. And one afternoon, it was almost 4 p.m. in the evening. It was late afternoon, early evening. He was as usual galloping on his Sultan. And in one of the lonely roads under a tree, there was an old man, crippled. He looked and he said, Oh, Baba, please wait. And Baba, being the kind man he is, he waited. He got down from his horse and he went up to him. What happened? I'm old man. I'm crippled. Can you please help me? Can you please help me to the neighboring village? But whom do you want to see there? Oh, there is one doctor who could give me that leafy medicine that'll ease my pain. Please, I'm so crippled. Have some mercy on me and put me on your, that horse. And please, Baba Bharti carried that man and put him on the horse, and he started walking with the rope in his hand. They have just taken a few steps, and suddenly the rope slipped and the horse started galloping. And that frail man who looked frail actually removed. And he was none other than Khadak Singh. I told you, right? Your horse will not be with you. I am taking it away, said Khadak Singh. And Baba Bharti said, please, please, please stop. Baba Bharti started, and please, please, please stop. And he waited. Yes, tell me. Please, Khadak Singh. You can tell me anything, but I'm not going to give this horse. I'm not going to ask for the horse. You can take it. What? Yes, I thought this horse is much more valuable to this Baba than his son. Why is he saying so? He said, but please, please do not tell anyone that, you know, when I helped you, you took it away by deceit. Don't tell about this incident to anyone. You can keep the horse. I'll let it go, but please do not tell about this incident to anyone. And Khadak Singh said, okay, you can take my word. And he started galloping slowly or strutting slowly and thinking, why did he not ask me to tell this to anyone? Then he turned back and he came to Baba again and he asked, why are you not why are you not asking for your horse and why are you asking me not to tell about this incident to anybody? Then Baba Bharti said, if you tell this incident to someone, people will stop trusting people. People will stop helping other people in need. I don't want to let that happen. People should help other people. They should not fear helping other people. So please, I kindly request, don't tell it to anybody. Again, Khadak Singh turned and started thinking, oh my God, what a noble man Baba Bharti is. He's not thinking about his position and about his possession of the horse or the horse that he loved. He's worried that people should not stop believing in kindness and helping others. And that night, Khadak Singh could not sleep. He came back to Baba's temple. Baba Bharti was sleeping. It was 3 a.m. in the night. And Khadak Singh tied Baba Bharti's horse to the post where it was resting. And he silently left. And when he was leaving that place, there were tears in Khadak Singh's eyes. And at 4 a.m., as the usual time, Baba Bharti woke up. And as usual, every morning, the first thing he used to do when his horse was with him was to walk towards the stable. And his legs automatically were leading towards the stable. Then he remembered, oh my God, my horse is not there. Khadak Singh has taken it. And he was just about to turn. But hearing the footsteps of his master, Sultan, gave such a loving cry. And it need. And Baba Bharti could not believe his eyes. He ran to Sultan, he hugged him, and he started crying. Oh my God, Sultan, you're back. Oh my God, oh my God. And the words that came out from his mouth were, people are still kind. They believe in goodness. They will start helping other people. And he hugged Sultan. That's the end of the story.
Wow, Shri, thank you for that story. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Do you tell stories to children, to audiences, or I saw your name is Chanda Mama, right?
Chanda Mama
Is your
is
storytelling?
actually moon. The whole Chanda Mama means moon, and Katha means stories in Sanskrit. So I'm a selenophile. I have a fascination for moon and moonlight. In fact, I have two daughters. My elder daughter, I named her as Moonlight in another language called Telugu in South India, which is spoken. And I have been telling stories since 2020. I stumbled into the world of storytelling. I tell to children, I go to schools, I go to NGOs, I tell in the local library to children. Apart from that, I love to tell stories to adults also. So every full moon night, I hold a space like how you are holding space here monthly once. So every full moon night, I hold a space. I invite storytellers from India. I would like to actually invite you international storytellers too, but I didn't have this one to connect. But I think this is a beginning. So we start with a moonlight meditation, and 3 or 4 storytellers share heartwarming stories. The only request I tell them is heartwarming, heart touching, emotional kind of stories, because that I believe is like a full moon night, the serenity and tranquility of the night. So I don't encourage horror stories or others. It could be a personal story, mythological, folk tale, anything. I just ask them to bring in a heartwarming story.
No werewolves.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
that,
your story was certainly heartwarming, and thank you for bringing it to us. You're always very welcome here, Shri.
thank you so much. And thank you, Renu, and thank you, Vicky.
I
Thank
might
you.
suggest that you put your information in the chat,
Sure, I will.
so that if people are interested in your moonlight event, your
I
full
will.
moon event, they
I will.
might get in touch with you. So thank you
Definitely.
again.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we've come to our break. I'm going to have to turn a light on in this room, it looks like. And Kenneth, remember the bathroom's out of order. You're going to have to go outside. Everybody else is fine. And we will take another bathroom joke. Oh my goodness. Anyway, we usually take a 5-minute break, then we come back and we have our circle. When we were in person, we used to stand in a circle. We'll have our virtual circle. And this month, we have a really interesting prompt. We'll go around and introduce ourselves. And I know there are some announcements. Right now, if you want to hang around, I recommend putting your view, which is in the upper right-hand corner on gallery, and then you can see who has their camera turned on and just chat for the next 5 minutes. So that's another way to spend the break time. All right, everybody, I'll see you in 5 minutes around 8:15. Thank you.
And just say a little bit about a prompt. And today, the prompt is going to be, have you ever had an encounter with a famous person, and what was that like? And I think I'll go ahead and start. Um, I I was thinking about this just the other day, and my little experience. I grew up in the country, and we didn't have a lot of famous people, nationally or anything like that. So it was really amazing when I went to college and they were having a folk festival at the college, and I loved folk music, so I got a friend and we went, and it was an all day thing. We were there probably, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning, and we were sitting. It's a Greek theater, so we were in those tiers, and so we were sitting there and we had a soda to get us awake, I think, that day, and had set the cup down on the next seating, below us. And all of a sudden, foot hits the cup, and the sweet soda went all over the seat. And we're like, uh-oh, but we didn't have anything to clean it up with. But it was okay because there weren't any other people around. Well, then there came on an act by Richard Farina and Mia, um, his wife. And oh, I was so excited. And who should come along and sit right in our spilled soda but my absolute favorite in the whole world, Joan Baez. Now, I don't know if anybody knows Joan Baez, but she's got a beautiful singing voice, was very famous at the time. She knew Bob Dylan, and it was a time of protest songs. And I just wanted to say hello and tell her, how much I appreciated her. And I was tongue tied. I never did say anything to her, and we never mentioned that there had been a soda that she was sitting in the middle of.
No.
So that's my story. And why don't we, Brendan, you call the names. You've got them all.
Okay, very good. So why don't we go on my screen? The next person is Shri. And so once again, we
The
say,
prompt?
yeah,
What the
we
prompt?
say who we are, and then have you ever met a famous person?
Oh my.
It's just kind of a fun little no pressure prompt.
Yes, in Vizag, I worked as the head of a radio station, and this particular private radio station has its branches across India. So I went to head office in Hyderabad, another city, and I met a very famous film star who acts in our language films, and he's one of the top known actors. And even in Vizag, famous film directors and some small time heroes, all celebrities used to come when I worked as the head of the radio station. So I did meet some famous film personalities, but not some politics or other places in person having a conversation. So
Was it
yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan?
No, no, Shah Rukh Khan is for Hindi and he's oh God, Brandon Shah Rukh Khan is famous in USA also. Like you can
Yes,
name him wonderful. No, it's not definitely not Shah Rukh Khan. Yeah. It was the southern film industry, which is called Telugu film. So apart from the Hindi films, there are a lot of other language movies going on here. So yeah, so
wonderful.
it's
Thank you.
Venkatesh. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
And next up, we have Katie Mangan.
Hi. So I met John Lasseter at the Thicker Than Smoke event that Brandon emceed, and it was really I was so surprised because he came up and talked to me about the story that I told, and so it was just really nice.
And that was a wonderful story, by the way. I still remember it. That was a great event.
It was a good
Thank
event.
you, Katie.
You're welcome.
And next up, we have Renu.
Well, when I went on a solo trip to a hill station, which is called Coorg in India, somewhere in Karnataka, I met a very famous storyteller called Subbarao. He was one of the people who, along with another person called Kamat, started Amar Chitra Katha comics, which have become very, very famous all over India. They have actually made them into short stories from the Indian epics, Ramayana and the Mahabharata, taking them to children, taking them to adults, shorter versions, short stories. I met him there. I had no idea who he was. He was there with his wife, his daughter-in-law, and his daughter-in-law's father. And when I was sitting there, I hadn't met them yet. I was sitting at the table where he was sitting, and suddenly he turned to me and he said, "Would you like to listen to a story?" And I said, "Yes, why not?" At that point in time, I wasn't a storyteller. So he told me this beautiful short story, which really touched my heart. Then he told me yet another story, equally short but equally beautiful. Then he told me, I said, "Who are you? What is your name?" And then he told me, "I'm Subbarao." Even then, it didn't click in my head. And then he said, "Have you heard of Amar Chitra Katha comics?" I said, "Yes, yes, I was a huge fan and I had a huge collection of the comics." And he said, "Well, I started those comics with Kamal." I said, "Oh, really? Wow." And now he also started another magazine called Tinkle, which is very, very famous in India. It's a much loved magazine. And also now he has an online thing called Katha Kids, which is open for everybody. Everybody can go and open up that website and read stories. I was so fascinated and so inspired by him that I became a storyteller. So I think for me that was a wonderful moment, and I will always cherish it.
Yeah. Thank you.
We are
And that
still in
was,
touch. We are still in touch.
oh, wow. That is really neat. And he must
His
have
daughter-in-law
inspired
is
you.
a stand-up comedian, and she's become very, very famous now.
Mhm. Thank you, Renu. And next up, we have Vicky.
Yeah, I'm Vicky. I'm in California. And I was staying with a friend of mine in the West Village in New York. And we were in this little tiny Russian shop in the West Village that was literally like 10 feet by 12 feet. And then there's display cases and there's shelving. And so the people who came in were, you sort of squeezed in like this and you picked something up and you looked at it real close and you put it down. And I mean, everybody was squished in because there were just breakable things everywhere, little nesting dolls and all this. The place was packed with stuff. And my friend left, and it was just me and this guy who was sort of bumping up against me and trying to reach and get something. And he was a little guy with a do-rag on his head. And I turned and looked at him, and it was Al Pacino. And he's shorter than me. And what can you say? What do you say? Hey, you're Al Pacino. So I didn't. I just smiled and left. But anyway,
That's a great story.
that's it.
Does it get any bigger than Al Pacino?
I mean, really.
And next we have Deb.
Hi. Well, it was my 52nd birthday, and I was living in Oakland at the time, and going to meet the man my boyfriend, who's now my husband, at a sushi restaurant up in Montclair in the hills of Oakland. And I was walking across the street, and I saw this woman sitting at the bus stop, and she turned around and smiled, and I saw immediately the face of Maya Angelou. And Maya Angelou, if you don't know, she's a writer, poet, director, and was quite famous in the 70s, 80s, 90s. She's passed away now. And she turned and she just sort of lifted her hand to me. I said, someone said, "Oh, it's Maya Angelou." No, there was one other woman came by me, and she proffered her hand to me to shake my hand. And I went up to her totally unprepared, totally in awe, because I had finished a term paper on all of her autobiographical novels in a writing class, and her writing is quite personal. And I didn't know her, even though I'd read her writing. I knew her, but here she is. I don't know how you go up to someone in the street and say, "Oh, gee, I really, you know, read this novel, really thought about your story." And instead I babbled about how great it was to meet her. And her face of trust and warmth was sort of fading along one side, like, gee, this fool I'm shaking hands with. But that was the best I could do. And I had a wonderful evening, and went to have dinner with my man and bragged that I just met Maya Angelou on my birthday. What a present for my birthday. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. And next we
Oh, I
have,
also promised her I told her, her friend, I told her I was a teacher, and I will make sure some of her poems go to children.
oh,
I had a very hard time finding a poem that was age appropriate for children. I did look at all of her poems, and I did find one, but it was a little bit of work. But she's written them. She's just amazing with all the writing she's done. Thank you.
thank you. And next we have Vina.
Well, I can't think of I'm Vina Breifogel. I live in Pengrove. I can't think of any encounter that I had with a famous person, but when I was 7 and living up in Northern California, my mom took us 3 kids across to Corning, I want to say, another little town up in Northern California, but the train would come through Corning. And Eisenhower was on a tour, so it had to be 52, right? So I must have been 7. Anyway, she took the 3 of us over because she was interested in politics. And so he made a whistle stop and came out on the caboose of the train and gave a talk that I could tell you nothing about. But it always, because she was so impressed, she impressed us with the importance of that moment.
Oh,
Lovely.
I can't say he picked me out of the crowd, though.
Eisenhower. Thank you, Vina. And next, it's kind of surprising when you get picked, isn't it, Nishama? Suddenly you're spotlit.
Saw that. So she wasn't exactly famous when I met her, but that was 53 years ago. She was playing tennis with my husband in the town that we had just moved to. And now she's pretty damn famous. And she's my best friend all these decades. That's the writer Anne Lamott. And it's just been an extraordinary friendship that has prevailed through all kinds of crap. So I'm very proud to be her friend. And there's a kind of reflected glory that goes along with it, you know, because people say, "Oh, she wrote in your book, and she's in," and I say, "Yeah," and it's great. So
Wow.
that's kind of the only famous person in my life, but that's enough.
And it's a deep connection too.
Mm.
That's amazing. It's not just an encounter. That's a
No,
friendship.
yes.
Fantastic. Kenneth, are you ready? Coming your way.
Hello, I'm Kenneth Foster, and I'm in central Utah. Something happened to my screen, and all I get is just the small squares on the side, so I can't see the big images for some reason. Anyway, I've met several famous people, and I can't even think of all their names. I did meet Captain Kirk. I can't think of his real name right now. um, one year we were in Tahoe, and
William Shatner.
yeah, there you go. Schaffner. There you go. William Schaffner. Thank you. Old age. I've lost all my memories. But he was in the same cafe that we were eating in, and he was very nice. He went around and shook everybody's hand, and that was fun. Um, we had a chance to meet a famous singer, and I can't even think of her name right now, but anyway, I've just happened to be several places where I've met people, and living in San Francisco, we had an opportunity to meet a lot of people. When Ford was president, I was a paramedic in the city, and we were on a detail where we got to meet Gerald Ford. He came to the city, and of course, all the Secret Service and all that stuff. I don't
Was he
know.
hurt?
Pardon me?
Was he hurt?
No, but there was an attempted shooting on him, and somebody had a gun, and then the Secret Service ushered him away. And because the paramedics and the ambulances were all there, we were part of that entourage that went. In fact, it was in front of the city of Paris. If you're from San Francisco, that's a famous store that I don't think it's there anymore. But that's where it was, in front of the city of Paris. So I don't know. It didn't change my life that much. Nobody made me rich or famous or anything like that. I met some people, so.
And so for those who are new to our swap, Kenneth Foster is one of the co-founders of this swap more than 12 years ago. And
Yes.
our other co-founder was with us at the beginning, but I think she has dropped out. That would be Elaine Stanley. But next up, let's hear from Gay.
I actually never met anybody really famous, but I walked down a hallway that was empty, an empty hallway with a man named Sean Connery that was coming to I'm showing my age. I don't even know if people know him. He was the 007 original guy. Anyway, he was walking, he was trying to not be around crowds. And he was walking toward me, or I was walking toward him. And I'm sure he was assuming that I was going to try to get an autograph or something. But I was so flummoxed or whatever. I just kind of kept walking, but it was like, but I didn't actually meet him, but I was very close to him.
That's great, Gay. Thank you.
It was fun.
And next up we have Sharon.
Gosh, a lot of memories went by. I almost met Anne Lamott. I took classes from her when she came to the Napa Writers group thing, but I only met her when I was in the role of a worshiper, you know, thinking, how could somebody be so vulnerable and open? And last night I went to hear Jonathan Evison, who is an amazing writer too, but he writes about this area in Washington where I live. And I think he may have changed my life because he's so, I don't process this yet, but he works in this manic fashion where he's working on 3 books at a time, always. So when he's researching, when he's composing, and one that he's doing the line editing on, because he can't stop himself. He's a manic worker. And I was interested in that everybody finds their own method. So that was interesting. I said to him, are you researching us right now? And he said, yes, I am. Yeah.
That's great. All right. And I see Genevieve has joined us. Nice to see you.
Hi, hi, it's good to be back. I've missed you. um, I actually, it's funny, I'm kind of out of it, so I've probably come across a lot of famous people without realizing it. I know if you live in San Francisco, at least from my era, you could easily have run into Joe Montana or Robin Williams, but I wouldn't have noticed. But when I was little, part of my trips to Houston had me meet James. These are people some of them you know. James Arness was the star of a program called Gunsmoke. And then James Garner, who was Maverick. And he was sitting at the Dobbs house when we flew in to get for me to go to the hospital, and he was sitting at the airport having breakfast. So I went and said hello to him when I was 7. But the exciting thing was that at the hospital, they brought Captain Kangaroo, and I have Captain Kangaroo's autograph on a Captain Kangaroo book.
That's a good one.
Healed, you know, you got IVs coming out your ears. And one of the special people that I did meet and talk to was Tony Bennett, who was at a hotel where he happened to be staying in this lovely hotel in San Diego. I was there for a conference, and I was there with my husband, Don. And the thing that always stuck me about that encounter was that first of all, he had the most incredible suit on. You realize what they mean when they say, you know, exquisite tailoring and exquisite fabric. But he was so humble and so kind. I wanted him to talk to my husband because my husband was blind. And he went and shook his hand and started chatting it up with Don as if he'd known him for years. So it's nice to know that those people exist. And finally, at my master's graduation, I didn't meet them, but the keynotes were given by Hillary Clinton and Annette Bening. So there you have it.
Oh, nice.
And that was Hillary before she was First Lady.
Wow. Katie, can you help me? Have I missed anybody?
Well, you need to tell your story about Jared Diamond.
Oh, geez. No. I have met Jared.
I think it's Joy there still. Joy Rogers, that's Bill and
Okay.
Is she left already?
I think Joy may have left.
Oh, darn. Okay.
And Elaine has left.
Elena's left. Yeah, I think you have everyone. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I just wanted to say to Neshama that every time I read something by Annie Lamott, I think, I know her friend.
I'm going to think that now too.
Yeah.
So the only other famous person I guess I've met, we used to have our high school at the Luther Burbank Center, and there's a theater attached to that. So musicians would perform there. And I was teaching ninth grade ancient history, and in walked Willie Nelson.
Oh,
He was going to perform later that evening, and
ooh.
he asked, "May I sit in the back of the class?"
Oh,
And so he sat back there and he got up and left and did his sound check. And then months went by and I was teaching and he came in again. And he sat in the back. And this time he raised his hand and he had really liked when we were studying mummies. And so he wanted me to go back and review the mummies again. Anyway, very strange encounter. My name is Brandon, and I'm a high school teacher here in Santa Rosa, California, and I'm very honored to be the MC tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Meg, who has a couple announcements, and I think Vicky might have an announcement as well. So.
Hi, everyone. Those were fun. I love hearing about just these chance encounters or best friends, or, it's really, really funny the way you meet people in life and how you react when you do. Okay, announcements. I don't have a lot of announcements today, but I do want to mention that genre stories are April 17th from 7 to 8:30. It will be historical stories, and our own Sharon Elwood will be telling one. And I'm wondering if she's going to tell that wonderful story about Nevada. That was very interesting. Wow, I didn't know all that stuff. And I've been across Nevada umpteen million times, it feels like. So I'll be looking for all that, Sharon. So anyway, genre stories are wonderful. They are free if you are a SAC member. It's always a great one of the great reasons to join SAC. Otherwise, it's just a $5 fee for non-members. And I encourage you to register early so that you can get right in and get the Zoom link and all of that. So genre stories are coming up. And Vicki, were you going to talk about the Bay Area Storytelling Festival, or would you like me to do that?
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay,
So,
well then I will mention it because it is coming up on May 3rd and 4th, which is less than a month away. And it has got an amazing lineup of tellers who will be telling us stories. I think they probably, because they've done it in the past, had an open tell, which is also amazing, you guys. You never want to miss an open telling session because you'll find that there are some just such talented people telling wonderful stories. So it's like Friday night, Friday afternoon, there's a free film by Kiloa. And then Friday night, there's a wonderful telling and wine tasting and whatnot. It's just a lot of stuff going on. My little card right here. Oh, well, it doesn't really show, does it? Because it's all in backwards. Anyway, there is, you can go on to the SAC website and you will find the link, or even on our Do Tell website, we have a link to registration. And I encourage you all to sign up and come. It's at Sonoma Academy, which is also very beautiful. And so I'm very excited and enthusiastic about going and seeing all these wonderful tellers. And I think that is really all the announcements that I have at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. And Vicky, you've got something, I know.
yeah, I was actually going to say one more thing about the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. There's all kinds of admission charges, so you can do the whole Friday night through Saturday, but you can also you can go to a free movie about storytelling. You can go to the final concert of the day. You can also just pay for a streaming ticket. So don't think, or for a half day on Saturday. So don't think that you have to commit to a big financial and time thing. I've done their stream ticket and it's wonderful. You can look at the thing anytime you want. So, and I'm going to put that in the chat. The how to just get there to the website so you can just find it. There it is. Also, I'm doing a short workshop, 2 hour online, $20. And I'm probably going to do it in May or June. And some of the people who are here have taken it. It's just basically exercises for how to create an authentic story for yourself, not a memoir, but a fantasy story for yourself. And then I'm doing a more in-depth 6 hour workshop through Renew, and that will be the end of May. And so that will be, yeah, like I said, 6 hours. Also, Sharon, where is she? There she is doing a workshop on integrating storytelling into the classroom curriculum. And she is doing that through Renee as well. So if you are interested, put your name in the chat for either the 2 hour story creation workshop, the 6 hour story creation workshop, or I don't know, how long, Sharon, is your workshop?
6 hours.
Okay, boom, there we go. So put your name in the chat if you're interested in more information and we will give it to you.
And Vicky, those are through whom? Through Renew?
Well, they're through Renew, but I can get you
Oh.
the information, and they will be in India, which means that if it's 8 o'clock at night in India, it'll be 7:30 in the morning our time, I think. So for what it's worth, but
Amazing. Well, it's so neat how the connections are getting strong within our swap, and we're working together elsewhere as well. That's great.
Will someone tell us what Renew is?
Renew is here with us at the swap.
Oh, Renew person. I thought it was an organization.
no.
Well, she probably is an organization, one person.
I
But
remember
here is
now.
Neshama with a raised hand.
Yeah. So I'm just so bad with technology. I can't post the link, but I'm connected with the 6 Feet Apart folks, who are also deep into the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. And tomorrow night is It Takes a Village. So I'm going to be telling a 5-minute story about the village in my life. And so if you want, if somebody who might be clever could post the link, but otherwise go to 6 Feet Apart Productions, and I think it will bring you to it. And it's a lot of fun. It's 10 tellers, and we have a really good time. So maybe I'll
That
see.
sounds wonderful, Neshama. Thank you. We'll be sure to be there. And Katie, how are we doing time-wise? Would you like to jump in? And
I would love to jump in if there's
I
everybody's.
think we have just enough time. And I always love ending with Katie because I say this just about every time you tell, but I really
Oh,
feel
yeah.
you take us into the world of dream quite beautifully. So
Well, I hope I do this time. It is kind of a story in progress. So here we go. It's an Eduardo story, and it's about Eduardo, his grandmother Eleanor, and the gardener Willem. Now, Eleanor was born into a matriarchal family, and she grew up surrounded by women. And these women were a part of the women's world of medicines and magic. And they grew plants and healing medicines and tinctures. And well, they created medicines and tinctures. And these plants were in a special garden, and it was called the Walled Garden. And the Walled Garden was surrounded by other beautiful gardens, and there was the home where Eleanor grew up. But the story begins in the Walled Garden, and it's with the gardener, Willem, and with Eduardo, who's about 8 years old. And Eduardo asks old Willem, as he calls him, can he remember the first time he went into the Walled Garden? Oh, my boy, that's a great story. Now, my mother told me some things because, of course, I didn't remember. But I was 3 years old at the time. And my elder brothers and sisters, well, they were off at school, and my poor mother was so busy with the house and everything. And so I would just go out in the garden and just explore. Well, one time I got stung by a bee on my foot. Well, I didn't bother about it until my mother came to find me. Well, she gave a big shriek because my foot, well, it had blowed up about half the size again. Oh, she scooped me up as she ran down to the walled garden. You see, that's what we did in those days. We went to the walled garden where the women were with all their medicines and magic. Yes. So there was a little bell. You were supposed to ring that. My mother said she rang that bell as she beat on the door. And who should answer the door but this beautiful young girl? Oh, she was 12 years old. It was Eleanor, your grandmother, Edward. Yes. And she took me from my mother's arms and she said not to worry, to my mum, to go home and come back later that afternoon. So Eleanor took me in to the walled garden. Well, what a world it was, full of flowers and trees and shrubs. And there were so many beautiful smells and sounds. Oh, you could hear the hum of the bees. And you know what? You could hear the women and the girls. They sang all the time. Well, Eleanor was carrying me, and I suddenly realized she was looking for someone. We went up and down these little paths, and her dress would go past some lavender, and I could smell the lavender. Finally, we were at the end of the garden, and then I saw something very frightening, my boy. Well, it seemed it was all covered in smoke, and there were two tall figures, and they were just covered in veils. And I think my foot had really begun to hurt, and I began to shout and scream. I began to wail. And these two figures, they took the veil and they rolled it up and they put it on the brim of their hats. They were the beekeepers. They could see what was wrong. One of them plucked the stinger out of my foot, and another one rubbed the wound with honey. And then Eleanor put something on my lips. Oh, that tastes so sweet. And then I think she put some more on, and I then became very drowsy, fell asleep. And Eleanor looked after me for the whole day until my mum came in the afternoon, took me home. Well, my mother thought that was that, you know. But I'd seen the walled garden. I'd seen inside. I had fallen in love with the walled garden and everything that was within it. Every opportunity I had, I would go to the garden. I would sit outside the door. And if Eleanor was there, she would let me in. She would tell me the names of all the plants, just like she does to you, Eduardo. Yes. It was wonderful. Well, time moves on. I had to go to school with my brothers and sisters, and Eleanor left to continue her education. I didn't see Eleanor. When did I see her? Oh, when she came back, she was married to her husband, Ernest, and they had 2 sons. Yes. Well, poor Eleanor, when she saw the walled garden, it'd been just neglected. It was all overgrown, terrible. And she wanted to bring it back to its former glory. But her husband, Ernest, had different ideas. Oh, Eleanor, oh, my dear, oh, no, we're not going backwards. No, 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 not to all that nonsense of the medicines and the magic and the tinctures. No, 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 no. Eleanor, what we need are vegetables. We've got enough flowers in the other gardens, for goodness sake. Vegetables. We have a growing family. Grow vegetables in the walled garden. And you know, Eleanor, she repeated the word vegetables. And Ernest believed that that's what she was going to grow. Well, my boy, Eleanor did grow vegetables, but she grew other things too. You see, I know because I became her gardener. Yes, well, Eleanor needed a gardener who she could trust. And she knew she could trust me. At that time, I was working in the house and I hated it. And she asked, would you like to be my gardener in the walled garden? You'll be outside all day. Well, of course, I was delighted. And I would look after all the vegetables and turn a blind eye when she would plant something, some sacred herb, right? And the other thing too, we brought the bees back and I became a beekeeper. And that's when he sat back in his chair and thought about that. And then he looked down, the old man, and he looked at Eduardo. Look, my boy, look at those bees. They love you. They're on your hands. They're always about you. And Eduardo smiled. And they love you too. Oh, Willem, look, they're on your arm. They're always there. My boy, I have an idea. I think you should become my assistant, my beekeeping assistant. What do you think? Oh, we'll have to, of course, run it past Eleanor, your grandmother. Oh, yes, please. Well, then, that's a deal. Oh, but Willem, if it's a deal, we should shake hands on it. That's what people do. Right, my boy. And so they did. Blessings, abundance, and healing to you all.
I'm glad there wasn't a bee in one of them's hand.
That probably was.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
You kept all the voices so clear that we knew immediately who was speaking, which is not easy to do. So I'm calling up all of our illustrious storytellers for this evening. We had a really nice evening. Lots of stories within stories, too, I noticed. Vicky.
I have a small request.
Yeah.
There are wonderful stories shared here. Stories are supposed to travel across the world. Like the first story, we knew it was a Russian folk tale of Baba Yaga. But the story, I mean, personal stories, it's okay. But other stories, if people can share the source or the link of the text available in the chat, so other storytellers can pick up and take them forward. I for sure will work on this translation because I had read it in Hindi and I translated in my mind and told it in English. But I will translate my story and share it with rest of the people in my next forum. Yeah, I'll translate it into English and give it to all of you to tell that story. It's a beautiful universal story. I'll do that. So similarly, if you have read, beautiful stories or you're telling it here, but for us to tell it out of memory of just listening once is difficult. So if we can have the link of the text available somewhere on some website or a reference to a book, if it can be shared on the chat, it'll be really helpful. I hope.
Maybe
Just a request.
something we could do, Shri, would be to somebody is writing the summary of our swap. Is that Sharon? Is that right? So if the storytellers could email Sharon a link, and then it would be in our next summary on our website, which comes out as soon as Sharon finishes it. Would that work for people?
Yeah, absolutely. Just
And
a
Shri, be
reference where
sure
we
to
can find
look
the
at
story.
our website. There's some other nice things on there, including an archive of stories by the storyteller Catherine Fairley as well.
Do we have let me put in the link to our website
That would be great. Yeah,
so that because then you can see it's all been recorded and you can watch it all again.
true. And
And
if you can think of it, like Neshama, you had a Baba Yaga story. If you could email Sharon a link to that, if that's possible, or
Book I got it from. I mean, so it might take a while to track that down. I have many Baba Yaga stories, and I've kind of lost track of which came from where. So
yeah, that could be
You,
tricky.
well, the website archive does have stories from all over the world, there's that we're building as we go.
All these stories are recorded, Shri, so you can always go back and have a look. I will share it with you.
Oh, thank you. That's great, Rainey.
So we'll be watching for yours, Sri, if you'll send it.
sure, I'll send the
Wonderful.
translation for my story.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
a wonderful
certainly
story.
we want to welcome you, Shri and Neshama, to this swap. You bring so much, and we sure hope to see you next month. And Rainu,
Sure.
you're still kind of a
Right.
member, and we're so glad that you've joined us and are coming consistently. All right, everybody, it is past 9 o'clock. And so these months just keep flitting by. Before we know it, it'll be May and we'll be together again. And it's funny how time goes slowly by every day. And then before you know it, it's our swap again, which is wonderful. I can't wait to see you all next month.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Brandon.
Thanks
Thank
to
you,
our guest.
everyone. Wonderful
Mm.
stories. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Bye. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you,
Good night,
Renu and
Everybody.
Good
Thanks,
night,
Brandon.
Shri.
Bye.
Good night, Nishama.
Great.
Storytelling.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.